Hi everyone, we just want to show you the parts or some of the parts that's going into the engine rebuild in this modified ski. There you can see the supercharger, you can see the new ECU, you can also see the injectors, operated injectors, everything new, especially on the new power that we're going to have. Here you can see your valves as well as your titanium retainers. We're not putting in a valve spring kit. And then we've got your forged pistons, much stronger. And then we've got your special con rods, also much stronger. And I just thought that I'd show you some of these parts. There you can see the water box for the exhaust. Just for interest sake, guys, thought I'd show you Redrockat out. Alright, so now that we've measured the stroking distance, take heed that you check the clearance for the final time on the oil injectors, or oil squirters as per se. Starter gear is in, timing chain is on. You saw us torque the caps, then the balancer shaft has been dropped into position on its timing points. Now the only thing that's left is to drop in the half moons and obviously to seal the touch surfaces. Okay, so now the box bottom piece has been torqued. Now for the caps to go on. Before I forget, put these in too. Okay, so putting in these bolts to keep the casings locked down. Just to show you, if we can get a good focus there. The casings hasn't yet been sealed tight, with only the main bolts that we put in. There you can see it's not completely sealed. So when these bolts on the side go in, then they'll seal. Okay, so here you can see just lightly hand tightening and a little ratchet tightening on the side bolts. Made the sealing surface seal much better already. And now we're getting ready to torque it down. So for reference sake, I'll wipe these sealant marks off and we'll torque them down now. Okay, so starting on the torquing sequence on the little bolts. There are quite a few of them. So usually we would double check the torquing just to make sure. That's the outer bolting. Now if we wipe down the sealing surface, just for you guys to see, you can see it's sealed. So obviously now we're going to put the top caps on to cover these bolts. Okay, so we're going to drop in these caps and then we're going to tighten them all according to manual spec. Right, torqued and checked. On to the next phase. Okay, so we flip the motor and I just want to check by hand if everything turns nicely, and as you can see it's smooth. Right. Okay, we're getting ready to assemble the head. The head has been flowed and flow tested and checked You can see the squishes has been polished, as well as part of the flaying and CCing process. So we're getting ready to assemble this head. Here are the individual parts. There are your collets, your valve retainers, your valve stem seals, and obviously your valves. So we'll get cracking on that. Top part of the head, we start putting in the valve stem seals. That's basically what it looks like, without anything in it. Alright. Always make sure that your valve springs are inserted the correct way up. Okay, so on this motor we're going to put the two ends on. One on the left hand side or the right hand side, or back and front. Okay, so dropping on this end cap, quite simple and straightforward. Right, installing that side. Okay, so sensors in. Now the thermostat housing comes on, and the oil cooler. Bolted on into place and torqued into position, according to manual spec obviously. So as you can see, we've got a lot less parts on the table now. These are the remaining parts. The rest is all into or onto the motor. Okay, so we're getting ready to drill the hole and insert the lambda sensor into the exhaust. So here are your bits, there's your block off, and we have marked it, and we're going to install it exactly in that position there, where you can see the punch hole. Just thought I'd show you guys that part as well. Okay, so the sensor is firmly in place. Okay, so next step is the intake. What we did was we removed the restrictor on the inside. There are two ways of doing this. Okay, so there's no restrictor on the inside anymore. And we've taken off the stock ECU. And we're going to fit this new ECU. There's a plate, a base plate. It comes with, it's metal, it's going on. Okay, so once the bracket is in place, you can drop on the ECU. Now, there's the barometric sensor in the ECU. That little piece on the inside comes out once we've installed it into the bike. And then we've got your interface plugs here. This ECU is much thicker, much heavier, and also it processes much faster than a stock ECU. The lambda sensor that we showed you plugs in here. You can leave it in there, or otherwise it's usually advised to take it out and put the stopper plug in. Okay, so the aftermarket ECU is now fitted for a high performance. Just to show you guys, this is the difference. Much smaller, much thinner, and the stock ECU really doesn't weigh anything, where this is really much superior processor that you're putting onto your bike. So you put your plugs in. Once this is installed, we're going to show you what we do then. Okay, so before we install the fuel pressure regulator, we have to take out the fuel cell first. So we've taken out the fuel cell, and to install this you have to drill a hole. So we did that, and then at the bottom, to install the override, you have to take out the pressure switch. And then we're going to install the pressure switch override as well, which is that little black thingy. It goes in as such. And then you reinstall the plugs. So the cabling from the top part down to the bottom just gets cabled down. Usually we put two cable ties in position just to make sure nothing ever comes loose. So obviously for the new pressure we're going to put a new relief in, pressure valve relief. So you use an Allen key and you tighten it nice. Always watch out for the fuel baffles, or basically the float, because it's very sensitive. Right, that was quick and easy. And basically this is what we took out, and that is also what we have unplugged, so that the computer will not sense that anymore. Okay, just to recap, There's your second cable tie showing right there. The plug that we have taken out is an earth that was used on the pressure switch. Now the pressure switch we have taken out, and as you noticed we have put in a block off on the inside, so the wiring on the pressure switch is not needed anymore. And just to make it clear that this fitting that we installed here is the return, and that's what it looks like, ready to get reinstalled. Okay, so now that this has been assembled, we're going to get ready to install the head onto the engine block. Cool. Oil cooler is on, water pump and thermostat assembly is on, these shells are on, that's where the supercharger goes in and houses onto the gears. Starter motor in position, obviously the mounts as well. Getting ready to install the head. Alright, so the head gasket is on, dipstick's also in. Now for the head. Alright, so it's got the L pins, it locks into position. So now we're going to drop in the new head bolts. Okay, so we drop in the bolts. They'll be hand tightened, then they'll be ratchet tightened, and then obviously torqued and degreed according to manual specifications. Also, never forget those two. We found some motors, opened them up, and those bolts were never in. Right, carry on with it. Okay, so we're dropping in the cam. Set the motor so that it can be set on its timing. We're going to fasten the cam gear and do the timing up. Afterwards we will put the hydraulic rocker arms on. Okay, so the rocker arms have been placed into position, and using new bolts torqued down according to manual specification, as well as the tubes for the suppressors, now comes on the cover, and then this motor will be ready to be dropped into the ski, from where the intake manifold and the exhaust manifold will be connected up. So this concludes this engine build up to here. Redrockat out.